Sanders.
Welcome to an all-new edition of Imapct Showdown Radio, coming at you live right now on blogtalkradio.com and over at our sister website at infinityOneproductions.com. Also heard on Stitcher. Mad shout out to those of you that are checking out tonight's show on November 15th, 2012. I'm, of course, as always, the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders. Hey, we got the chat room. It's open up right now. Feel free to jump on in there. That's at Blog Talk Radio right now. Just search blogtalkradio.com/the RCWR show to be able to jump on in. You can interact with us during the course of tonight's episode by hitting us up on Twitter at Infinity1Prod, Facebook at Infinity1 Productions. You know, we've been getting a ton of likes today on our Facebook page. Shout out to those of you that had took the time out to check it out, like it. Hopefully you appreciate all the great content that we are putting up on a daily basis on there. If you haven't taken the time out to check out our Facebook page and like it, do so during the course of tonight's episode. As always, we'll be opening up the phone lines in the later part of the show. So, before we jump into tonight's episode of TNA Impact, we want to send a heartfelt thank you to you, the listeners, for checking out our coverage of TNA Turning Point from this past weekend, as you have made our Call That Match special, where I was offering match predictions for the Turning Point pay-per-view, and our RCWR Post Show be our most listened to episodes that we've put out this month alone, and it had just continued all the way up until Imapct Wrestling came on tonight. So we really appreciate that love from you guys, as always. And if you haven't checked out that episode yet, or the episodes that we had put out leading up to the Turning Point, it was definitely some really strong content. You'd like it, you'd appreciate it, check it out, especially that Turning Point post show. We had some great fan reactions on there. So with that in mind, tonight was the aftermath of the Turning Point pay-per-view, where we had pretty much got a solid pay-per-view. Everybody was still buzzing about that main event match where Jeff Hardy was able to retain over Austin Aries in a phenomenal ladder match that just had Jeff Hardy fans from back in the WWF days saying, yes, this is the Jeff Hardy that we grew up watching. It's good to see this Jeff Hardy back. It was really a phenomenal match. If you have not had the luxury of ordering that Turning Point pay-per-view, you still might have a little bit of time to check it out. Or, hey, if you happen to know a friend that maybe ordered that pay-per-view, see if maybe they might be able to burn you a copy and check that out. It was really, that match alone, one of the best ladder matches from TNA in quite some time. Again, tonight, the aftermath of Turning Point, and we saw some shakeups on tonight's episode, nonetheless, as TNA is making that move to their next pay-per-view, which will be Final Resolution, and that's going to be happening on December 9th from the Orlando studios in Florida. So let's kick it up at the very beginning for those of you that were not able to check out tonight's episode. Now, one of the main major storylines that we had saw for tonight, we had saw James Storm, Robert Roode. Yes, I know you would not think that it would be even possible to say these two names in one sentence to kick off Imapct Wrestling. But that's exactly what had happened tonight, folks. We saw one James Storm come out, and he spoke about how it has been a long, hard-fought journey to get to where he was at that point, which is the new number one contender for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So he's got dibs on Jeff Hardy next. And we see James Storm, he is thanking the fans, he's thanking the people at home, he's even thanking the people who doubted him and said he did not have what it took to be that it factor, to take it to that level. And as he's just making his rounds, we suddenly hear the music of the it factor, Bobby Roode, come out. And Bobby Roode bringing out 2 beers. You're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe this is the start of some type of healing process. That was not even the case, folks. We actually saw Robert Roode come out. He tells James Storm, hey, I want to toast you for what you did, and let you know that what all you had did, you couldn't have done it without me. It's because of me you are where you're at right now. And we see Robert Roode just continue to just rub that down the throat of James Storm. And we see Robert Roode, you're kind of kicking back and you're watching this. You're saying to yourself, what the hell does Robert Roode have exactly up his sleeve here? Well, what's his agenda? Why is he out here? I knew from the minute that I heard his music come on, this guy is going to try to manipulate his way into having James Storm cough up that number one contender spot, somehow put it on the line in a match. I knew that off the break. It was telling the story to get to that point is what I was interested in. I was interested in the execution. And the execution was pretty damn good, as Robert Roode told James Storm, look, you're going to have to sit up, you're going to have to put your head down, and you're going to have to head on home, because it's going to be because all these fans in attendance, all the people at home, they're going to be the ones that you are going to need, because when it's all said and done, you will lose again when it counts the most. You're not going to get the job done. You're going to have to go back home to your ranch, and you're going to have to look at your precious little daughter and explain to her why you're a loser. And those were fighting words for James Storm. Storm, he proceeded to throw a few punches out there at Robert Roode. Robert Roode, he quickly leaves the ring. James Storm, hot-headed, tells Roode, bring your ass back in the ring. Let's get this on. Let's have at it. Robert Roode, he pulls the smart card. He says, you know what, I'm not going to do that. You want me in that ring? Why don't you put your number one contender spot on the line? James Storm, he says, no, it's not happening. No, I fought too long. I fought too hard to get where I'm at right now. It's not going to happen. Robert Roode plays that family card again. Maybe poor choice of words that may have been said here. And we have to talk about the poor choice of words that Roode had used, which had to do with James Storm's daughter, as Robert Roode says, hey, maybe you can tell your daughter whenever she reaches the age of 18, give me a call so I can show her a good ride. James Storm bites into those words, and the next thing you know, the match is on. So the main event is set for the night, and you're saying to yourself, oh, God, once again, James Storm, Robert Roode, getting it on WTF. Now, let's just, before we go any further, some people felt a little rubbed the wrong way by the comments that Bobby Roode had said to James Storm about his daughter, and a lot of buzz was, well, exactly how old is James Storm's daughter? And the word going around was, well, God, she's only like 4, 5, or 6 years old. That just seems pretty damn harsh, what Bobby Roode had said. And I know one of the questions that was put out there as Zed was interacting with some of you all on Twitter, one of the questions that was asked by a few of you was, did TNA kind of go a little bit too far referencing James Storm's daughter and basically Rude wanting to F the living brains out of her whenever she gets older. To answer that question, quite honestly, I'm paying attention to how the choice of words was used, in what context, in what setting, and honestly, I think that for Bobby Roode's character, it was just right. I mean, Bobby Roode has always been one of those type of wrestlers, as we've seen from time and time again. This heel Bobby Roode that we've been getting for the past couple of years now, folks, if you really think about it, Bobby Roode has been willing to do anything and everything to get what he wants. That's the name of the game. And come on, if you really think about it, who better than Bobby Roode, who knows the ins and outs, how James Storm thinks? He was tag partners with the guy for so many years. Who better to know what really gets under James Storm's skin than to talk about his family? And really, just great words right there spoken by Bobby Roode. The question is asked, okay, if this were to happen in the WWE, would WWE be under the same amount of pressure? Would they be under some type of controversy? Of course, the whole Jerry Lawler fake heart attack that was displayed on Raw this past Monday night, which upset a lot of people. We have some TNA folks or TNA smarks, whatever you want to call them, or anti-TNA fans, whatever you want to call them. They want to know if that angle that happened tonight between Storm and Rude, if that whole reference of the little girl was mentioned in WWE, would they sit up and be put under the same type of microscope? And quite honestly, I think if WWE were to say something like that on one of their shows that's geared towards little kids, they got that whole Saturday Slam and all that other stuff. I mean, quite honestly, when you watch WWE Raw, when you watch SmackDown, those shows are kind of more geared towards the teenagers and adults. Not really too much is going towards kids like 8 and younger, okay? So I really think that if we were to have seen something like that happen on those respected shows, nobody would be tripping over it. And why people had overanalyzed the choice of words that Bobby Roode had said about James Storm's daughter, I think you guys overanalyzed the hell out of that. I looked at that initial sentence, and you know what it actually reminded me of? Rude actually reminded me of Ric Flair, because Ric Flair would say something like that, But knowing Ric Flair would probably say it a little bit more taboo. Now, I think it would have been a more poorer choice of words if Bobby Roode would have sat up and said, hey, why don't you bring your daughter over to my house so I can show her a good time? And James Storm is like, my daughter is 6 years old, you freaking creep. I think it was just a heat of the moment type of deal. I think it was in a very natural case, very freestyle. I think probably what Bobby Roode really wanted to go for was something along the lines of, hey, why don't you tell your wife if she wants a real man to come give me a call? I'll really show her a hell of a good time right after I get done mopping the floor with you. I think Bobby Roode should have went with something like that rather than go with the daughters. But I can't stress it enough. For what it's worth, though it might have been a little bit eyebrow-raising for some people and a little sensitive for some people's ears, it really wasn't that hardcore. Oh, my God, I can't believe he just said that. Poor choice of words, I agree, but when it's all said and done, the execution was still on point, which was Bobby Roode getting into the mind of James Storm for that main event match. Now, let's talk about that main event match, folks, where, again, that number one contender spot was on the line. And another great classic encounter between Bobby Roode and James Storm. Let's pick it up towards the end of the match, those precious few seconds, because that's what really counts the most, folks. We see Bobby Roode grab onto referee Brian Hebner, and he tries to cause a little bit of a distraction, but it's not really working right there. We see James Storm, who for the last few minutes of the match looks like he has control of it, looks like he's getting ready to set things up for that last call super kick. He's getting ready to do it, but Bobby Roode, being that in-ring veteran that he is, well aware of what all is surrounding him, he grabs on to Hebner, pushes him in the way of James Storm. James Storm almost kicks off the head of Brian Hebner, but we see Storm, he catches himself at the last second, and he grabs Hebner, pushes him to the side. We then see Bobby Roode just come in and just does a dirty move. I mean, it all happens so fast, but in the nutshell, folks, we saw Bobby Roode roll up James Storm in a dirty pin, holding on to the trunks away from Hebner as Hebner counts 1, 2, 3. Shockingly, folks, we have a new number one contender to face Jeff Hardy at Final Resolution, and that is Bobby Roode. So, game, set, checkmate. Bobby Roode played James Storm exactly how he needed to play him. And when you think about it overall, you think about even those poor choice of words that Bobby Roode had. I don't want you guys just thinking about that. I want you to think about overall. Bobby Roode played James Storm beautifully, okay? He played him beautifully. Now, some would sit up and say, okay, if we have this happening, then what exactly could possibly be next? Exactly what was the point of having that number one contenders match at Turning Point? And simply put, it was a great match. Bobby Roode was not the one that got pinned, so he still got to fight for another day. James Storm, being the cowboy that he is, that fighting man, that man's man, kind of reminds you of a modified, more current version of a John Wayne who's always willing to fight that good fight. James Storm felt like he had to prove something. He felt like he needed to defend himself. He needed to defend his honor, his family's honor. He did probably what anybody would do, but he really did not think about it more carefully. There's that cowboy mentality coming in, folks. I mean, when you really think about it, who do you want to go into battle with you, a cowboy or a scientist? Most people will probably overread that a little bit, but if you want to win the war, then you're probably going to go with a scientist to help you come up with some really cool gadgets and all little nifty devices so you can have the upper hand on the opponent, right? Whereas a cowboy is just straight up go in, shoot 'em up. So in this case, you know, not to kind of knock off James Storm's mentality a little bit here, but you kind of see where I'm going with that. Bobby Roode played James Storm beautifully. Other major angle that we had saw on Impact tonight, we had saw Doc, or I got to keep that trend going. What's up, Doc? Doc talking with the beign-like character in the group. I'm going to now refer to him as VP because that name has been popping up quite a lot. We're now going to officially tag him, so from here on now, we are no longer going to refer to him as the beign-like character in Aces and Eights. We're going to go with the official name he's being dubbed as, the VP. VP talking with Doc, letting him know that tonight they will be deciding whether or not he's going to be staying with the group, and he basically is given the platform to offer last arguments why he feels he needs to stay in the group. If he felt he did the gang good enough to earn his keep. And Doc tells them how he went out and he destroyed Sting last week, and he talks about how he's willing to team up with Devon tonight, as apparently they are going to be in a tag match with the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. And one of the things I thought was funny, between Devon, VP, all the other guys in that table there, just all around, what I thought was funny was nobody brought up the fact that Doc had sat up and he also had got a win at Sunday's pay-per-view. It's like, okay, you're talking about what happened with Sting, you're talking about what you want to do tonight, but come on, you also had destroyed Joseph Park. You got to hype that up too. But nonetheless, it was what it was. Meanwhile, we see Devon say to VP, hey, we got some business we need to take care of. And as we all know, there's that famous board of male TNA wrestlers that is just dangling there in the corner. We see Devon go to it. Remember, a dart was thrown on Kurt Angle. This time, the next random victim, we don't know who it is because we don't see it, but we hear Devon say to VP, oh, he deserves this, don't like him anyway. So you're kind of giving the impression, okay, aces and eights, their next victim, for sure it's somebody that kind of rubs them the wrong way. Who could it possibly be? Meanwhile, you go over to the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is in a bit of a predicament. He's trying to figure out who's going to be his tag partner for tonight. We see him talking with Garrett Bischoff, who hasn't had in-ring action for a good moment now on Imapct Wrestling Live, and Wes Briscoe, who continues to just elude our presence of going into the ring and throwing it down. We see Garrett offer his services to Angle, saying, look, I know Devon very well. Devon, he left me dangling in the wind. Come on, you got to choose me. Let me team with you. Wes's argument is, hey, Kurt, you trained me in high school. Come on, man, go with me. Kurt Angle, his mind is made up. And by the way, Zed, that was a good tweet you had put out there earlier. He said, why not choose the guy that screwed you, Kurt Angle, out of $35K for making your web app? It's the least thing he can do for you. I like that. That was really funny right there. I was kind of thinking that, but I was whatever. But that was really nice what you had said there. Yes, Zed, I do read your Twitter feeds myself, and I like what I see a lot of times. We see Kurt Angle. He goes with Garrett Bischoff, but he tells Wes Briscoe, look, I got bigger plans for you. Just hang tight. Of course, we did see them in that match, as it was Kurt Angle, Garrett Bischoff taking on Aces and Eights, Devon, and a unknown guy. He just kept being referred to as Big Man. So great tag match that we had right here. Now let's pick it up, critical point in the match, which we actually had saw the referee, in this case, senior referee Earl Hebner. He got distracted by some outside activities that was caused by other Aces and Eights brothers, as they did come down to ringside to watch this. And at one point, we see the mystery tag partner in Aces and Eights. He grabbed on to the Olympic gold medalist. Doc gets in the ring, and I guess we can call Doc the new Triple H when it comes to sledgehammers, because we see Doc bring in that hammer that he used on Sting just last week. He's getting ready to mess him up good, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we see Wes Briscoe come out of nowhere. He just came to the rescue, steel pipe in hand. Aces and Eights, they go running. Kurt Angle, he was able to get a victory. I believe he got the win via roll-up to quickly leave the ring. Once again, Devon, other Aces and Eights members, they're threatening Kurt Angle, letting him know he is a dead man walking. They aren't done with him, not by a long shot. Elsewhere, of course, we got to talk about Joseph Park. Now, this was pretty funny right here. Joseph Park was talking with TNA General Manager Hulk Hogan, begging Hulk Hogan to give him another shot at the Aces and Eights. Hulk Hogan telling Joseph, look, brother, that Joseph put him in a really bad spot, and that he just can't be held liable because he would get in serious trouble. The company would be put in serious trouble. And he admits to Joseph he was watching the match Sunday that he had against Doc, and he was not pleased what he saw, and he feels that Joseph has no business being in the ring, that Joseph is nothing more than a lawyer, and that's what he needs to stick to. And Hogan, just feeling as though he was manipulated by Joseph and Bully Ray. No more, it's off. Joseph is not going to have another match against anybody from Aces and Eights or another match anytime soon. Joseph Park kind of getting the impression that maybe Hulk Hogan is wanting for Joseph to maybe get more wrestling experience under his belt. So Joseph promises Hogan that he's going to go to boot camp, he's going to get more training, and that when he comes back, Hogan will for sure give him another match against the Aces and Eights. Very interesting right here. It's a two-parter right here for this particular segment. You know, on the one hand, I love how Hogan was being firm with Joseph. And I love how Joseph was kind of like, when Hogan had brought up the whole TNA roster, as he had an update of the roster, and he was able to see that slowly but surely, one by one, Aces and Eights are just going down the roster, eliminating people. Now, he did give an update on Sting. Not really much, but take it for what it's worth. Basically, Sting beat up so bad, no telling when Sting is going to come back, right? So you know where this is going. Sting, until further notice, he's just out of commission. But when he does come back, he'll be back in full effect. Earliest I would expect for Sting to come back, and we said it on our post show this past weekend, I would expect him to come back sometime around March 2013. I think that's long enough to sell those injuries, enjoy the little vacation with the family, not to mention the holidays. Come on now. We know how Sting is. Sting arrive with bat, get paycheck, leave, come back 6 months later. That's Steve. That's Sting right there, okay? If you don't know it by now, now you know. And it's so funny because we had some people that actually thought Sting was attacked for real. And, folks, if that really were to have happened for real, my God, there would be so many lawsuits that would be put out there. It wouldn't even be funny. It was great seeing the way he was destroyed last week, though. I must say it was great TV. All right, let's move on now with the next major angle that we saw on Imapct Wrestling for tonight, which was Austin Aries. That's right, Austin Aries was asked by cameramen in the backstage segment if he was done with Jeff Hardy, and Aries would point out that he is not done with the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, not by a long shot. And we actually saw Aries try to excuse himself to go get a massage as he was still aching from the injuries that he had sustained at the Turning Point pay-per-view. Wouldn't you know it, the person that's actually in the training room there, trailer park little office there, is none other than Jeff Hardy, who is getting a massage. And we see Austin Aries. He tells Jeff Hardy that, hey, what he did on Sunday, it was good, it was badass, and that on that night he did prove that he's the better man, but would also point out that Jeff Hardy had took his game to another level because of who he was wrestling against. And Austin Aries taking proper claim that whenever he gets into the ring, whoever it is that he works with, he always makes them go that extra mile. And we see Austin Aries tell Jeff Hardy, hey, sooner or later, somewhere down the road, you and me, Hardy, we're going to collide again. It's going to be for that title because you have something that I want, and I want it back. Meantime, enjoy for what it's worth. In the meantime, we see another segment here with Jeff Hardy where we are hearing what's on his mind. It's taking me still a while to get used to this. I just think it's really freaking silly. But it goes as follows, and this is what Jeff Hardy said. This is over for now, and Austin Aries, you may have raised the game for others, but you will never reach my level. You entered my dimension, not the champion, and left not the champion. So very interesting words right there that was on the mind of Jeff Hardy, who surprisingly doesn't even need to speak now. Whenever he pops up, we just hear what's on his mind, and that's pretty much it. I think that's kind of hilarious right there. Very silly, I think. Very, very silly. Honestly, why didn't he just say something as he was getting a rub down from the woman? She didn't have to say anything back to him. He just could have mumbled something under his breath, or better yet, he could have actually said those words out loud to Austin Aries. And, you know, Austin Aries, hey, who knows? Austin Aries, he could have tried to come right back with a nice little witty comeback line, or Aries could have just left the trailer a little irritated. But it is what it is. Later on, we actually got to see in another segment, very weird segment this was right here, we saw the lovely Tara and her boo, Jessie, go into Brooke Hogan's office, and looked like they came in at a good time, because it looked as if there was an intimate moment going on between Brooke and Bully Ray as they quickly had jumped off of the sofa. It looked like all they needed was a good Netflix movie and some Al Green playing in the background, dim the lights, and it is on. I mean, that's how intense it kind of looked between these two. We see Tara bash Brooke for not telling her firsthand that she was going to be in a knockout, that there was going to be a battle royal for the new number one contender to face her for her knockouts title. And Brooke Hogan counters right back, saying she wishes that people would sit up and know how to knock on her door whenever they needed something. And Brooke offers simple advice to Tara. She's going to have to figure it out on her own. Basically, it is what it is right now. Tara comes right back and offers Brooke some really, when you think about it, advice, which is, if you don't want to be disturbed, lock your door. Enough said. Lord knows, nobody needs to see you as the executive VP of the knockouts on all fours with Bully Ray going, "Don't you love it, baby?" Or "Give it to me, baby." You know, little Offspring song for you guys there. All right, let's move on with the some of the matches that we saw for the night. We saw RVD take on Kid Cash. Very nice to see Kid Cash return. We saw quite a few people return to Impact tonight. Kid Cash was one of them. We also saw Eric Young in action as he had took on Jesse. You know, out of all the matches tonight, and we had got about 5 matches total, this match was actually impressive. You know, I sat up, and for the love of me, I just did not like the angle that they have Jesse in. But I must admit, you know, he has got to be taking it to a level as far as what he's been doing in recent weeks, wrestling, some of the knockouts. I mean, he's been doing more than what Eric Young would do. You know, Eric Young is kind of going for those silly little spots and taking off his Speedos and, you know, not really being physical with the knockouts. But Jesse is entirely a different guy on his own. You know, I didn't really realize that until I really sat down and I just started adding up what all I've been seeing from him thus far. And tonight, I must admit, I was actually pretty stunned at the way he had wrestled tonight against EY, and he did pick up a victory over Eric Young. It was a very impressive outing, I must admit. As far as a future TNA World Heavyweight Champion, I don't quite see that just yet. But from what I saw of Jesse's in-ring ability, I must admit, kid's got some moves. I like what he did right there, and it's nice to see EY back. It looks like I got my wish, at least for now, and my wish was to see EY come back to Impact Television for a hot minute to try to really help further along the Tara Jesse storyline. Really nice that we got EY back tonight. Now, we saw Magnus in what appeared to have been a match with Samoa Joe for the television title. And, folks, the match actually ended up not happening because we saw those damn aces and eights come out, and they proceeded to attack Magnus. Now, keep in mind, Magnus was the first one to come out. We did not see Samoa Joe, period, okay? Aces and eights, they beat up Magnus. We see two guys, they hold his legs down as he's laid out on the floor, and we see Doc with that sledgehammer, and he goes to the knees of Magnus, and we see them pick him up. Devon, he is ready to split open Magnus' head with a bat. And then we see Bully Ray, and I just thought this was kind of funny. Only one guy, and it was Bully Ray with a steel chain running down to the rescue of Magnus. And we just see, like, what was it, 5, 6, 7, 8 aces and eights brothers just haul ass from one guy. I'm like, really? You guys are a huge number, and you're running from one guy with one weapon, and you guys got a couple. Come on now. But it is what it is. That's what had happened. We saw Al Snow, D'Lo Brown, a couple of others. They came out, threw up the X symbol. Magnus was hurt. Magnus would leave out on a stretcher. It looks like for right now, Magnus is out of the picture. Surprisingly, we didn't see Samoa Joe. We didn't even get to hear reactions from Samoa Joe. Nothing like that. Very interesting that television title was on the line and Samoa Joe nowhere in sight. And by the way, folks, a notation, that RVD versus Kid Cash match, that match was for the X Division title, and RVD had defeated Kid Cash there for the retain. Now, let's talk about that Knockouts Battle Royal, which saw ODB, the return of, I love all these women I'm getting ready to name, Gail Kim, Killer Queen, and I'm not talking about Freddie Mercury, folks. Madison Rain returned. Miss Tessmacher. No, I'm not talking about from Superman. I'm talking about former Knockouts champion Brooke Tessmacher, but don't call her Brooke because that first name has been reserved for somebody else. And we also saw the return of hardcore country Mickie James. Mickie James, of course, who had been sidelined for about 3+ months. She had an injury, and it was really great seeing all these beautiful women. It's what I miss the most about Imapct Wrestling. Every single Thursday night was really being able to see the Knockouts just basking in their beauty and throwing it down in the ring. It needs to happen more often. I want to see more knockout matches. Make them last a little longer, okay? Great moment right here. Probably one of my favorite highlights of the night aside from the match that we had got with James Storm, Robert Roode. We also saw Mickie James, surprisingly, after a 3-month hiatus, pick up the win where the winner becomes the new #1 contender to face the lovely Tara for the Knockouts title. So it looks like it's going to be Mickie James, Tara, the classic matches that they had in WWE, which carried over into TNA. Nice to kind of see this rivalry be refueled there. I can't wait to see how this plays out on TV in the weeks to come leading up to their match at Final Resolution. Of course, we got to talk about a major angle that had happened on Impact tonight, which was revolved around one AJ Styles. AJ Styles, who had been silent since losing at the Turning Point pay-per-view, would break his silence tonight and talk for the first time about what direction he's possibly going to be going, how he's feeling since he lost. And AJ Styles, he came out and he pretty much was bah humbug, if you will. He was talking about how he's had a pretty rough year. He was in the silly storyline there where he was accused of sleeping around with the TNA president. He talked about how he supposedly had impregnated a crackhead woman, and just when he thought things were going to look a little bit better, it ended up not being the case, because now he is on the outside looking in. He's not going to be able to get a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match for a whole year. Austin Aries just really feeling bahamba tonight, as the holidays are right around the corner, and quite honestly, he doesn't have anything to feel thankful or appreciative for. We see Daniels and Kazarian come out, and we see them just taking turns ripping on AJ Styles, and it basically got to the point where Daniels was sitting up telling AJ Styles, hey, take a good hard look at yourself. Know this going forward. You're nothing more than a failure. It's all you ever are. It's all you ever will be. And AJ Styles counters right back and says, you know what, quite sure when we open up the TNA wrestling books, it's going to show that I have more W's over you than you over me. Why don't we go at it one more time? Now, Kazarian, he tried to speak on behalf of Daniels and say that Daniels has nothing more to prove, and that they are so beyond AJ right now because they are just on a hot streak. They've been doing what they need to be doing to win their matches. Yeah, right. As we've seen, they've lost a few times there, but they are also trying to reclaim their world heavyweight titles, as they still feel they are the world heavyweight tag champions. Try saying that 3 times fast. So we see Daniels, though. He interrupts and tells AJ Styles, yeah, let's go at it one last time, and let's really see who the true failure is. So these two guys, it looks like, whether some of you like it or not, I mean, you must admit, whenever they lock it up, they always have a great match. Looks like one more time, at least for this calendar year, AJ Styles, Daniels are going to be locking it up, and at this rate, looks like it might be playing out at the Final Resolution. I got my pay-per-views mixed up there. Looks like it's going to be happening at the Final Resolution pay-per-view, the way that they are hyping it up right now. Overall tonight, very solid episode of Imapct Wrestling. Great aftermath edition from the Turning Point pay-per-view. Really nice to see so many storylines go in so many different directions here. And I loved how on this episode tonight, with the exception of Samoa Joe, pretty much all the major titles kind of made a little cameo appearance there, so to speak. One thing that we do get to look forward to, among many of the other things that I just mentioned here, next week is the Open Fight Night edition of Imapct Wrestling. Now, I should warn you guys, Imapct Wrestling is not going to be live this Thursday. They actually ended up taping their episode for next week. This week, I believe they did it. So just know that. Do your best to avoid the dirt sheets if you don't want to read the results. But from what I'm able to gather, it looks like it's going to be a very solid edition. I couldn't help but kind of take a little peek there. Now, one of the things that I can tell you guys that was revealed on tonight's episode is all the TNA gut check contestants. It looks like it's either going to be just the winners, or it could be a combination of winners and most favorite contestants. I would think maybe just winners only. I know Taylor Hendricks is going to be returning. Christian York is going to be returning, as well as a few others. They are going to be on the Open Fight Night edition, and they're going to be able to call out whoever they want to call out. Should be a very interesting Open Fight Night edition next Thursday. Also, it looks like Wes Briscoe might be getting a gut check tryout match, as Kurt Angle had spoke with the TNA gut check judges. Bruce Pritchard, Al Snow, D'Lo Brown was in there too. He's not a judge, folks, but he was just in there too. and he was trying to recommend to the judges, hey, why not give Wes Briscoe an opportunity for a TNA contract? He's got what it takes. And they shot it down. They told Kurt Angle that there is a process that they need to go through first, but Kurt Angle tells him, hey, ran it by Taz. Taz likes it. Come on. So looks like they have a little bit of a little miscommunication problem between Taz and his other gut check judges, but it looks as if, safe to say, Wes Briscoe is going to be getting a TNA gut check tryout match next week. A lot to look forward to, though. We got that's going to be happening. We also have Austin Aries, who's promising to call out somebody because he feels that if you kick back and you watch long enough, you know what all is happening, you know what all is going on behind the scenes, you know who has the power, all this other stuff. He kind of spoke in riddles a little bit, a little murky what he was saying, but the one thing that was solid and clear that he mentioned was that he's going to be calling out somebody on Open Fight Night to help him get what he wants. Now, I'm just thinking about that. I'm thinking about what Austin Aries had saw last week between Brooke Hogan and Bully Ray, and then you're seeing what had happened this week between Brooke Hogan and Bully Ray as they were stumbled upon by Tara and Jesse. Wouldn't surprise me if Austin Aries may call out Brooke Hogan, try to put him in a position where he gets another shot at that title, or maybe he might try to call out Hulk Hogan. Should be interesting to see how that happens. But we got that to look forward to. We got the TNA gut check winners coming back. We also have James Storm, who's probably going to be really peed off, I would think, next week, addressing how he got cheated out of his number one contender spot. Don't be too surprised if possibly James Storm may try to call out Bobby Roode on the Open Fight Night edition and try to win back his spot. Wouldn't surprise me if Storm tried to go there, but of course, Bobby Roode being the smarter one, he's probably not going to bite that bullet. But then again, you know the deal here, folks. If somebody challenges you, you have to accept the challenge. You got to go through it or suffer severe consequences. So, folks, it could be highly possible we could see James Storm get back his number one contender spot. It should be very interesting to see. Of course, I'm saying all this knowing that Impact Wrestling has been taped, but like many of you, I don't want to know the results, so it is what it is. But a lot to look forward to for next Thursday. All right, so we're going to go on ahead right now, and we're going to take a very brief commercial break, but when we come right back, we'll talk very briefly about what all has been happening in the latest in TNA wrestling-related news. We'll get you guys ready for the weekend for you hardcore wrestling fans, especially you wrestling fans that like to go back and forth between WWE, TNA. We'll give you guys a heads up about some programming notes for our shows coming up this weekend, as it's now WWE's turn at a pay-per-view, as they're going to be having the 26th annual Survivor Series. That's going to be coming from Indianapolis, Indiana. We'll give you guys the details on that when we come back. And, of course, we'll open up the phone lines, get you all's reactions to tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling Live. We'll take that commercial break now. You're listening to Impact Showdown Radio, coming at you live right now, 10 minutes before the 11 o'clock hour on November 15th, 2012. We'll be coming right back, folks. Do hang tight.
Thank you for listening to tonight's episode. If you enjoyed our coverage of the TNA Wrestling, then be sure to check out Impact Showdown Radio every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on blogtalkradio.com and at our sister website at infinityOneProductions.com for all the latest fallout from Impact Wrestling with the latest in TNA-related news and great live fan reactions. Tired of those wrestling websites that give you redirects, spyware, weird pop-ups? How about those misleading headlines? Instead of hitting the keyboard in frustration, why not visit InfinityOneProductions.com? Infinity One is the source for wrestling-related news and so much more without all the hassle. Visit InfinityOneProductions.com. Your keyboard will thank you.
Hey guys, the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders here. Hey, by chance, are you going to miss your favorite episodes of the RCWR Show and Imapct Showdown Radio as they're live in progress? Hey, that's not a problem. All you got to do is download the free podcast app in the iTunes store, and you'll be able to take all our episodes with you as you're on the move. That's right. Download it. Just search podcast in the iTunes store. It's a free app. Download it. And then from there, just search for our shows by typing in the keywords, the RCWR Show. And then you'll be able to subscribe. It's as easy as that. So check that out, and you'll be able to play all our episodes on your iPad, on your iTouch, iPod, all smartphone, mobile phones, all portable devices. Also, if you haven't checked out the Stitcher app already, highly recommend that you check that out as well, as that's another way you can check out our episodes, especially if you are always on the go. Stitcher, new and smart way to play internet radio. All right, and we're back. You're listening to Imapct Showdown Radio, coming at you live right now on blogtalkradio.com, over at our sister website at InfinityOneProductions.com, also heard on Stitcher. So, quick programming note for you wrestling fans, WWE fans. We're going to be covering the 26th Annual Survivor Series pay-per-view, and it all begins this Saturday afternoon, as we'll be having another installment of the RCWR Show called That Match Special. I'm going to be offering predictions on who I think will be walking away victorious from Sunday's pay-per-view. All leads into the RCWR Post Show that's going to be airing Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, where we'll cover the fallout from the pay-per-view, share with you all honest analysis, feedback, great live fan reaction. So make sure that you check out both of those two cool shows. If you aren't able to catch them live in progress, make sure that you catch it in the iTunes, Zune marketplaces, also on Stitcher. Make sure you have that Stitcher app to be able to check out those episodes if you're on the go. Be able to check it all out. Just use the keywords, the RCWR Show. One other quick note, if you like our show, I can't stress it enough, submit a review for us in the iTunes and Zune store. From what we're able to gather, we get more traffic from iTunes. So I can't stress it enough. If you always check out our episodes on the downloads, or even if you don't, you listen to it live, and you do have access to the iTunes store, you have iPod and all that, feel free to leave us a review. The more reviews that we get, the better our presence is. A lot more people, the one thing I keep saying, I wish I would have came across this show a little bit sooner. It's pretty badass. Well, that's really one way you can definitely help us. Doesn't involve putting any money out there, nothing like that. All you got to do is just, Google search, keywords, the RCWR Show, iTunes. That's one way you could look it up. Or you can also make it even more easier. If you got iTunes on your desktop, just pull up your iTunes, open up that application, and go into the iTunes store, click podcast, search the RCWR Show, and submit your review. That way, as I said, more reviews we have, the higher up we move in the ranks, and the more presence that we have, that other people will be able to find the show more easier. And for those of you that do submit those reviews, we do thank you humbly in advance. All right, so let's talk briefly about what all's been happening in TNA wrestling-related news since last we were on the air with you guys. And one of the things that I want to talk about is Conan. That's right. Now, remember, Conan, he used to be with TNA there for a little bit, and nowadays he's taking part in the AAA Mexico booking. And, you know, he has a radio show of his own that he does. It's actually some pretty cool stuff. Check it out from time to time. He throws out some really great dirt on wrestlers and everything. But he recently had spoke about a recent visit to AAA by TNA founder Jeff Hardy and what AAA was doing differently in order to be successful in Mexico. And this is a direct quote from Conan. Here's what he had to say. Jeff Jarrett was at one of our shows 2 or 3 weeks ago. He always likes to put up pictures of the arena and send it back, put it on tweet and shit like that. He says when he came back to TNA, because we must have had that show about 17,000 people or something like that, TNA wanted to know what they are doing different. Was it the midgets or something like that? We have gay characters on our show that are super, super over. Is it a combination? We just know how to tell a story. We know how to tell a long, simmering story. I did not read any of those words wrong. If some of you are kind of scratching your heads like, that's exactly what he said. I actually have my glasses on tonight. I read that perfectly well. All right, and in other TNA wrestling-related news, Spike TV is set to use Imapct Wrestling possibly as a lead-in for Bellator fighting in early 2013. That is what we're hearing right now. Of course, Spike TV officials, they have not confirmed that. So until you hear that official announcement from Spike TV, just take that with a grain of salt. But if you're already hearing those rumblings right now, you can expect it to happen. And as you all know, there was that partnership that was made just earlier this year between Bellator and Spike TV, and they are supposed to be coming in. And honestly, 2013, I would say January, maybe February, that would be a good time to launch Bellator. Also, the judge had recently ruled on Hulk Hogan as far as the sex tape. Sex tape is staying. Now, this is a report by TMZ, which is reporting that Hulk Hogan's sex tape will remain online at least for right now, as the judge had denied Hulk Hogan's bid to yank it from the internet as soon as possible. Now, for you guys that need a refresher, Hulk Hogan is suing the website Gawker for $1 million for putting up the 1-minute video clip of Hulk Hogan and various sexual acts with Bubba the Love Sponge's then at the time wife, Heather Clamp. And it looks like right now the judge had ruled that Hogan failed to prove that the website wasn't within its First Amendment rights to post a video in the first place. Basically, the way the judge is feeling is that, hey, at this point, it's already too late for you to try to sit up and ask for privacy because people have already seen the tape. Now, in the meantime, it's very well possible that Hawk could win a possible case against Gawker if the tape could be removed with the judge's approval. So, I don't know. You take that for what it's worth, but Hogan still has a shot, but it kind of really doesn't look that good right now, so take it for what it's worth. Also, we got to address that whole thing that was happening all during the week there, which is, and we were one of the first wrestling radio shows to call it early on. We were like, wait a minute, is WWE kind of ripping from TNA here? What exactly is going on here? And, now it's being said, and we're still trying to confirm this, but take it for what it's worth, as you really, when you think about it, 2 and 2 is 4, so take it for what it's worth. I think it's pretty solid here, but it looks as if the narration that's used at the very beginning of Raw these past couple of weeks, as y'all are able to tell, is something that is copied from TNA's Imapct Wrestling. Now, there is a claim by a WWE source that a WWE employee had showed Vince McMahon footage of Imapct Wrestling's intro. McMahon was then said to have said that they could do it better. And then, of course, look at the similar storylines that we had there with AJ Lee, John Cena, go over to TNA side, AJ Styles, Claire Lynch. Now, TNA producer Eric Bischoff, he also had took notice and retweeted a fan's message alleging that WWE copied Bischoff's work. Now, the fan had wrote, at Eric Bischoff, saw WWE using your backstage camera angles along with the voiceover in the opening video. Hashtag Eric wins. I actually had sent Eric Bischoff a direct tweet as well, and, I had wanted his comments on what he felt, what was happening with WWE there, kind of ripping them off a little bit. Take it for what it's worth. Some people will sit up and say, well, to copy somebody is the greatest sign of flattery. Take it for what it's worth. Also, for those of you that might have missed it, AJ Styles has recently signed a autobiography deal with VIP Inc. Publishing. That's right. And looks like it's going to be a global type of book deal. Looks like he's going to be talking about his entire wrestling career in and out the ring. More information and release date information on the book as it becomes available. For the very latest, though, you can go to VIPIncpublishing.com. Should be a really great read to check that out. Of course, we also got to talk about going backtrack there to that Hulk Hogan video thing that was going on there. One of the things that was said was it was brought up that somebody new had tried to enter the whole mix because somebody had filed a motion, and it was believed to be Dog the Bounty Hunter, okay? And from what we've been able to gather on that, it doesn't look like it is the real Dog the Bounty Hunter. So we still are trying to find out exactly who is that person that had filed the motion. But it is what it is right there, folks. And other than that, it's been a pretty quiet week for TNA wrestling-related news. So on that note, let's go on ahead and let's open up the phone lines. Number to call, as always, is 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. Kickback, smile, and dial. Call us live on the air. Special little note, and for those of you that had listened to the Tuesday night edition of the RCWR show, you all will get this perfectly. From here on out, if you're calling from a 111111 number, access denied. You're not getting on the show. Although I have great fun ripping you, but you're not going to get on the show. Just keep that in mind. Unblock your number. Call into the show. Very rare we use Skype anyway, so let's have at it. Let's go to our good friend, Homie from the San Antonio area. Homie, you're live on the air, my friend.
Good evening, sir.
Hey, now.
I thought Impact was pretty solid tonight. I enjoyed the main event. I'm glad Rude won. Wasn't too happy Storm won of the pay-per-view. I totally agree with you with the Jeff Hardy thing. That stuff with the, you can hear it's like he's thinking out loud. I think that is so silly and so stupid. Do you know any reason why they would even do that?
Try to add more originality to it. They're trying to, I think it's TNA's way of experimenting and trying to see what works, what doesn't work, them trying to really put their own spin on wrestling. That's really the only thing I can gather. I mean, it's a nice effort, but it's just so awkward right now. It really is.
Yeah, I agree. And with the Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, I love Christopher Daniels. He's one of my favorites in TNA, and them two always put on great matches. But I'm kind of getting tired of seeing them always go at it. It would have been nice to see a change up, maybe Kazarian face AJ Styles. I don't think they've wrestled as many times as Christopher Daniels and Styles have. But, I mean, at least we'll get a good match out of it. And, you know, you never know, maybe AJ Styles will turn heel. I think that would be a nice change.
Mm-hmm.
But
I agree 100%. Yeah, I agree 100% on that. Well, you know, honestly, what I thought was actually going to happen was I thought maybe AJ Styles and James Storm was going to somehow collide tonight. But now that we've seen what we've seen, you know, and the way it's being dubbed right now, we're led to believe that maybe AJ and Daniels are going to get it on at Final Resolution. Meanwhile, you got these subtle touches, you know, and they've been doing these subtle touches for 2 weeks now. We can even go back as far as last week there where, what was it, AJ Styles was scouting that match between James Storm and Robert Roode there. I believe, was it James Storm, Robert Roode that went at it last week? It was something that had happened there last week. But I just remember AJ Styles was scouting, and now you kind of see what had happened this week. You know, they got those subtle touches right there that these two guys, they could be colliding sometime soon. And, I mean, quite honestly, we got Final Resolution in December. So the earliest it looks like that these two guys could possibly collide is January 2013.
Yeah, and I would love to see a Styles Storm feud. I think that would be a very nice feud going on with them. Plus, they're two good wrestlers. Imagine those matches. Have they wrestled before? I don't even think they have.
It's been quite a few times. That's the thing. They have locked it up before. It's just been really rare. You know, it's been more rarer than, you know, AJ taking on Kazarian. You know, I completely agree with you 100%. You know, hands down, those two guys, whenever they lock it up, and AJ and Daniels, they have phenomenal matches. But, you know, even Shawn Michaels and Triple H, you know, even they took a break after a while.
Yeah, it's like they're I know I'm probably, you know, over-exaggerating, but it seems like it's like their 10th match in 3 months. You know, it's like we could see so much of the same stuff over and over. Even though it's a great match, it's like it just gets kind of tiresome after a while. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. How are you looking forward to the Open Fight Night edition of Impact, though? We're going to be able to see all those TNA gut check contestants return. Yeah, I know it's going to be pre-recorded and it's already been taped, and I haven't read the spoilers, but are they all in sync competition, or are they kind of confused? Are they just bringing back certain members that won it, or are all of them coming back? They really were not that, you know, I kind of picked up the same vibe, too, because I actually rewinded it back a little bit. It looks as if they're going to be bringing back the winners is what I was under the impression. For you guys that's listening, especially those of you in the chat room, if I'm wrong about that, please let me know right now. We want to make sure we have the right information put out there. But I'm led to believe that the gut check winners are going to be returning, and they're going to be given an opportunity to call folks out. At least that's what I believe is going to happen, and it's just amazing how fast we're going to be able to see Christian York come right back. I think this plays out beautifully, because remember what I said a couple of weeks ago, if this pans out right, we could see these TNA gut check winners be officially on the main roster as early as 2013. It's nice to kind of see some of these guys coming back as early as next week, kind of give you a little preview of things to come. And to follow up what you had said there, homie, you know, it's very possible what we're going to be seeing on next Thursday's Impact Wrestling, you know, if handled right, you know, not only will it probably be one of the best editions of Open Fight Night,
but it can give us great insight into just the unthinkable combinations that we could see from these new wrestlers being injected into an old roster when 2013 comes around the corner. We'll actually be able to get those breaks from AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. You know, I can't wait. I have a feeling 2013 is when it's really going to be setting off, that they're really going to go full throttle and just inject this new breed of talent into a old roster, and the timing is so perfect. Before it slips my mind, we always cover Backstage Pass every single week on Impact Showdown Radio. You guys know that. We were staying on top of it on Twitter. We try to stay on top of it on Facebook. We even try to stay on top of it on YouTube, on the Impact Wrestling chat website. It was down. Now, as far as we know, we haven't done anything weird with the main computer that we use over here. As far as we were able to tell, Backstage Pass was a no-go tonight, which was a first since the whole concept was even created a while back. So hope everything was all right. I thought maybe something was wrong with Jeremy Borash there, but as we saw, he popped up in that main event to announce Rude versus Storm. Very curious why we did not get a Backstage Pass tonight. Hopefully more details on that will come in a little bit. I know I'll actually personally, and you guys can do this as well, and if you guys hear something before I do, definitely let us know on our Infinity One Prod Twitter handle. You can also let me know as well at Mr. Sandman Lee. If you happen to get in contact with Jeremy Borash before I do, and he gives you a reply, let me know what's up with that, because, you know, it's always a good little treat to see the Backstage Pass. And without a doubt, it was weird to not have it tonight because you just look so forward to seeing what all is happening behind the scenes. All right, let's go now to our good friend, Dave from the Michigan area. Dave, you're live, my friend.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good, man. How you been?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's kind of a rushed Impact tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a lot of matches, like, I know me and homie were just talking about this on Twitter tonight about the whole RVD thing. Like, how Mike Tenay kept dropping ECW like 3 times in a row.
Oh, yes, he did. Yeah.
That was, like, weird. I was like, we were talking about that. We kept going, was not a big deal. And I was like, I don't know, because why would they drop it 3? You never hear them talk about WCW.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I don't know. I mean, it makes you wonder if there is something going on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
If maybe, I'm not saying they're working together, which I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would work together, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's ever going to happen. Well, just to see like a WE guy just sit in the audience.
Oh, that would be the day. But you know what? To follow up on something that you said there, because there's one thing that comes into my mind off the top of my head. Former TNA wrestler Stevie Richards, now he did go on record, and I guess by throwing this name out there, if we were to see anybody from ECW try to make a return, we can probably count him out. Stevie Richards had said that TNA is an indie promotion with a TV deal, and this is basically what he had said. Now, keep in mind, he's getting ready to make an appearance at the next Shane Douglas version of ECW Extreme Rising event. He said, and I quote, WWE still monopolizes and dominates. TNA is the most distant second you can ever imagine, and then some. And what these are just independents. You know, to a degree, TNA is just an indie with TV. That's all they really are. They pay their wrestlers like that. They take care of their wrestlers like that. Most of them, not their top guys. And I can speak from experience. So if anyone doubts me, I can show you my paychecks. That's it. It's WWE or nothing. There's still kids watching TV. No kid there is watching TV and saying, man, I want to go to TNA. No, they might say, hey, I want to go to a place like ECW, or what they all say is what we said. I want to go to WWF, WWE one day. I want to wrestle Hulk Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior. Triple H, all the guys on top. They don't say anything else. You're still there, Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking about that. I was like, well, because that's kind of, I guess you could say that, but I kind of second-guessed that because on your show, what was it, the 1,000 or the 100th episode? I asked Joe, or before that actually, I think it might have been. I asked Joey Ryan. I was like, or Joey Ryan, my bad, Justin Reno.
Yeah.
And like, would you rather go honestly? As a wrestler, would you rather go to TNA or the WE? And he flat out said TNA.
Yeah.
And we had CM Punk say the same thing not too long ago as well. That TNA is nothing but an indie promotion.
Yeah. And he caught a lot of heat.
Yeah, from Kurt Angle, and everybody was mad about that. I mean, a lot of fans were, too, of TNA, but...
Yeah, and, and they should have been mad at him because, remember, he was dubbed the indie king of wrestling there.
I mean, he was there.
Yeah, he was there, yeah.
They gave him his spot.
A lot of people forget that. Yeah, like I said...
WWE wouldn't have seen him.
Yeah, like I said, in the for those of you that haven't seen it yet, I did a review for the CM Punk DVD. Yeah, that was one of the things I had mentioned, that DVD was lacking. They just dodged an entire chapter there talking about his days in TNA Wrestling. They acted as if it never happened. And it's like, I know you got the lawsuit going on, but come on, man.
Go look at some archived TNA footage. You can see a bunch of him and Raven and Mickie James. In case people didn't know. I mean, that's just so funny, I think, that he wants to, like, attack. If it wasn't for TNA... How much I bet he wouldn't be in the WWE right now, period.
Exactly.
Because they were that indie promotion, if you want to call them. They were on TV where he got saw. The WWE didn't catch him in Ring of Honor for sure at that time.
No. What's your take on seeing Rude become the new number one contender there?
Man, I feel bad for Storm. What was the point of Turning Point? Why did we get this whole AJ Styles, whatever's going on with him and Daniels again? I mean,
honestly, I was expecting bigger things.
The way he went with the crowd.
Yeah.
When AJ first came out, he's like, man, no one believed in me. I thought he was going to just start alienating everybody right there. I thought they were going like, well, none of you believed that you all thought I was guilty. I thought he was just going to start going heel right there for a minute.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man. But for Rude to win, it was like kind of obvious, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And for everybody just jumping on this whole Rude went over the line, these two are like brothers. I know people want to say that was wrong over the line, but it wasn't meant. What's the best way to get under someone's skin is to talk about their kids.
Exactly.
WWE's done it before. They've done it in the past, talking about someone's kid. Hell, excuse my language, but hell, it was
you good.
All right, Heyman. What about Paul Heyman? We talked about Triple H's kids.
Yeah, exactly.
No one really brought stuff up about that, really.
Exactly. Yeah. Same style.
Yeah, I mean,
down
it pretty
to
much
the T,
was.
same style.
Yeah, it's like, but those two are really good friends anyway. Whether if you want to see it or not, they are.
Yeah.
And I feel bad that James Storm is no longer, because it was like a year ago when when Rude won the title from Storm, and now he loses the number one spot to him too. I'd much rather seen Austin Aries and AJ Styles than looking like Storm and Jeff Hart or Rude now. So it's looking like Rude's going to be the champ.
What was your high favorite moment for the night and least favorite?
My least favorite was probably the whole Jeff Hardy, we can all hear you. I was like, really, dude? You're not a Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a Jedi. Come on.
Right.
But, I mean, my favorite was probably, like everyone else's, I'm sure, was the Rude Storm match. Was still a good match. So every time these two have a match,
Yeah, it's one of those type of deals when I see James Storm and Robert Roode, even though it is as high as Daniels, taking on Kazarian. I love seeing the guys hook up. They always have a great encounter. And, folks, until we hear Dixie Carter, Hulk Hogan say this is it, there's not going to be any more matches for the respected AJ, Daniels, and Rude versus Storm. We can expect it to keep on happening. That's why I'm really hoping that when 2013 rolls around with that injection of that new breed of wrestlers known as the gut check winners, I just have this really good, strong feeling it's really going to help shape things up a little bit. I wouldn't be too surprised if Christian York is, before this year is out, if he starts making more and more appearances there. Dave, thank you for that call, as always. You know, I want to end the show on a little bit of a personal note, and it's a friendly personal note, and I'll be talking more about it next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, as it'll be the return of the RCWR Show Weekend Report. And I was kicking back earlier this week, and I actually ended up having a little bit of free time on my hands because I had got a lot of projects out the way. And I was sitting up, and I said, well, let me watch G4. I haven't watched G4 in a good minute, and, you know, G4 is one of those type of channels, you know, you'll watch it for Attack of the Show, you'll watch it for X-Play, and you sit up, and, you know, after watching it for maybe a couple of weeks straight, you can kind of get a little burned out and say, let me take a little break. Well, for me, I ended up watching G4 again after taking like a 6-month hiatus or whatever. And I got hit with a 1-2 punch. I was like, you know, and I don't mean to sound all old, you know, oh, that's old news, you know, but surprisingly some people weren't even aware of it. But, you know, the 1-2 punch came for me, and it was actually a 3-punch. Just punches to the gut, big time. The first one was finding out that longtime G4 host of X-Play's Adam Sessler had left. I was like, WTF, this guy did so much behind the scenes for G4. I mean, he was that driving force for X-Play. Say what you want. Some would even want to question his sexuality. Personally, I don't give a damn. I watch the guy because I know when I watch him, he's going to give those honest reviews for those video games. He is really a passionate gamer, and he is just hands down one of the greatest minds when it comes to doing a video game show, period. And he is like the glue that just holds everything together. So I was really shocked there when he had left the G4 network. And then the other punch came when I found out Kevin Pereira had left a little while back. And then the third punch came where I found out that the G4 network is going to be canceled itself like next month. And very shocking news right there that just kind of makes you sit up and go, wow, you know, if you've been watching G4 since it was called, what was that? When it was called Tech something, you know, you can appreciate that network and how far it had came along, and just to know that, wow, you know, you remove those guys and it looks like the network is trying to go in a different direction. They're trying to rebrand itself and everything. How the mighty have fallen. That's a line that I always like to use. But, yeah, for you guys that are gamers and you do happen to check that network out from time to time, get in your kicks while you can. They're still pumping out new episodes of X-Play. They're still pumping out new episodes of Attack of the Show. After December, that's pretty much going to be it. They're going to be rebranding the entire network. I'm hearing rumblings that the network may be rebranded as G4 for Men, or correction, G4 Men is what it's going to be called, and it looks like video games, all that. It looks like that's not going to have anything to do with this new network when it launches. So just to give you guys a heads up about that right now. I just thought I'd spread that news. It feels like it's been infinity since we've done a episode of the weekend edition of the RCWR show, and I've just been wanting to, as soon as I have found out everything I have found out, I wanted to just let that many of you know, because surprisingly there are a lot of people that weren't even aware of all these shakeups that are happening with that network right now. So it looks like when it's all said and done, going forward, for your video game fix, you're going to have to go to Spike TV, which doesn't quite have that same, as G4 had approached it. But that's going to do it. Once again, we got a jam-packed, busy weekend. We're going to be covering the WWE Survivor Series pay-per-view that's going to be coming up this Saturday. Make sure that you guys check that out. Begins this Saturday, 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern. We're going to get you guys ready. I'm going to be offering match predictions for Sunday's pay-per-view. Also, we got the RCWR Post Show that's going to be covering the fallout, great live fan reactions. So if you're not able to check out the pay-per-view, make sure you check out our post show. If you do check out the pay-per-view, even better, make sure you call into the show. Let us know how you either liked or disliked the pay-per-view. And we got some really great stuff that's going to be planned for next weekend. As I said, it will be the return of the RCWR Show Weekend Report. And we'll let you guys know this weekend when we get ready to do the post show what all we got planned for it, and we'll remind you during the week. If you haven't taken the time yet, vote for your favorite TNA wrestler of the year. So far, it looks like Jeff Hardy is the top candidate. Some of you may disagree with that. If you do and you have not cast your vote, go cast it right now. You can do it at infinityoneproductions.com. And you'll know it when you see it. Our poll is up. You can't miss it. It's as big as daylight. You can't miss it. It's on the home page. Casting your vote, and on our weekend review episode that we'll be doing next month, it's going to be a year-end episode for TNA Wrestling. As we'll take a look back, we'll reveal the TNA Wrestler of the Year as voted by you, the fans. In the meantime, the talk of wrestling, it doesn't end here. Be sure to check out infinityoneproductions.com for all the latest and wrestling-related news and so much more. I did a really kick-ass review for the CM Punk Best in the World DVD. Finally had a chance to sit down and watch it. Didn't get a chance to write a review because I kept getting sidetracked with stuff, but I finally did it. You guys will like it, appreciate it. Something new that we got on the website now, you guys can now leave comments on all the articles that we write. So if you are on Twitter or Facebook, Discus, you name it, you'll be able to post a comment. So check it out. Let us know what you think about that. And as always, you can hit us up on Twitter at Infinity1Prod, Facebook at Infinity1Productions. As always, we cover so much more than wrestling, so check out that great stuff. And be sure to subscribe to us in the iTunes, Zune Marketplaces if you haven't done it yet. Also, we said it earlier in the show, can't stress it enough. If you like the show, submit a review for us so we can get it high up there in the ranks so other people will be able to find it with cool ease. That's going to do it, folks. You all have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you guys this Saturday afternoon for the RCWR show. Call that match special. You all be safe and you all be kind to one another, folks. Do take care.